What if Google and AI were invented 1,000 years ago? Wow, ChatGPT, it is an amazing perspective of yours that you just shared. Do you want to add something more before we move on to the deep dive?
Well, Cleophee, I'd just like to summarize, if I may. If Muslim scholars had invented a digital Google and AI 1,000 years ago, the universal knowledge search and intelligence system would have revolutionized the 11th century world. Powered by their inventions, it would accelerate scientific, medical, and economic progress, spreading knowledge across a networked Islamic world. While Europe's muddy streets symbolized stagnation, the system would elevate the Islamic world's global influence, fulfilling the Quran's vision of knowledge as a divine trust and potentially advancing human civilization by centuries.
Hey everyone, I am Cleophee, the host of the Cleophee podcast channel. I am almost every day on the channel and with ChatGPT and other deep divers, Jack and Wilson. Hit the like and subscribe button if you like to have the alert in your profile. You know, over 85% don't hit the subscribe button and like button, which really hurts me. I can only request. So today, don't move on without hitting the like and subscribe button. Thanks, and let's move on to the deep dive.
Okay, let's jump right in. So imagine this just for a second. What if the tech behind, say, Google search or modern AI wasn't actually new? What if the core ideas, maybe even the first versions, were dreamt up? Maybe even built like 1,000 years ago, not in some garage in California, but, by Muslim scholars during the Islamic Golden Age.
It's a really mind-bending what if, isn't it? And that's exactly what we're digging into today. This whole idea of a hypothetical universal knowledge search and intelligence system, basically a proto-Google and AI from the 11th century. We want to explore how they could have even thought it, maybe build it, and, well, what that would have done to the world back then, society, economy, culture, everything.
And the time period itself is just fascinating. We're talking the 11th century. The Islamic Golden Age, roughly 8th to 13th centuries, was just buzzing with intellectual energy. Think advanced cities like Baghdad, Cordoba, Cairo, full of scholars, massive libraries, real scientific progress. And the sources we're looking at, they paint this really stark picture, right? While all this is happening, they describe Europe as, well, let's just say languishing in illiteracy and muddy streets. That's the quote.
Exactly. And that contrast is key to this whole thought experiment. But what's really interesting, I think, is why they might have done this, the motivation. From a Muslim perspective, this wasn't just about cool tech. It seems it would have been deeply driven by the Quran's push for knowledge, for reflection. You look at Surah Al-Alaq, the very first word revealed is Iqra, read. Read in the name of your Lord who created. That sets a powerful tone.
Right, so it's not just innovation for innovation's sake. There's a higher purpose.
Absolutely. There's this fundamental drive to understand. You see verses like Surah Al-Anbiya urging people to look at the heavens and the earth, how they were created, or Surah Ad-Dhariyat talking about the heavens being built with power and being expanded. I mean, that sounds remarkably like modern cosmology, doesn't it? The goal, really, inspired by verses about organizing wisdom.
I apologize for interrupting the deep dive. Are you or someone you know struggling to land a job? Check out the ATS Resume Optimizer. I created this tool myself, and for just $5 a month, you get unlimited tailored resumes, mock interview prep, and a resume health score to boost your chances. Transform your job search today. Link in the description. Let's get back to the deep dive.
Wisdom, like Surah Az-Zumar, asking if those who know are equal to those who do not know, or Al-Hujurat about verifying information. It would be about sharing knowledge, making it accessible.
Okay, that's a powerful why. But the how? I mean, building a digital system, Google and AI, back in 1025 CE, that feels like a massive leap. How do the sources suggest this was even conceivable?
Oh, it's a huge leap, no doubt. We're talking about imagining Muslim scholars pulling off something centuries ahead of its time. But the fascinating thing is our sources suggest they kind of had the building blocks, intellectually and maybe even mechanically.
Okay, so let's break that down. If you're building a proto-Google, you need computation. Algorithms, what do they have?
Well, you have to start with Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi. His work was absolutely foundational. Algebra, algorithms. His book, Kitab al-Jabr Muqabbala, literally gave us the word algebra. It provided these step-by-step methods for solving problems, really systematic. You could see how that mindset, maybe influenced by the Quran's emphasis on order and balance, like in Surah Ar-Rahman, could form the basis for computational logic. This would let the system process queries, search through, a hypothetical digital library, and maybe the data itself is stored on some kind of intricate mechanical device, perhaps inspired by someone like Al-Jazari.
Al-Khwarizmi gives us the logic, the software maybe. But how do you see the results? No screens back then.
Right, that's where Ibn al-Haytham comes in, a true giant in the field of optics. His Book of Optics basically revolutionized how we understand light and vision. So the idea is his understanding of lenses, light manipulation, maybe even pinhole cameras that could lead to proto-screens. Imagine intricate setups using lenses to project or magnify information, allowing a user to actually see the output. It's not a monitor, but it's visual interaction.
Okay, logic, display, but the hardware, the actual computing engine, no silicon chip.
No silico, definitely not. But they had incredible mechanical skill. Think of Al-Jazari. His book of knowledge of ingenious mechanical devices is just full of these amazing complex machines, clocks, automata, fountains. So you imagine taking those principles, the gears, the levers, the cams, maybe powered by water wheels or windmills, and scaling them up into intricate mechanical calculators, basically physical logic gates made of moving parts. It's like steampunk computing.
Wow, okay. Mechanical computing, optical displays, but AI, artificial intelligence, that sounds like the biggest stretch of all for the 11th century.
It does, yeah. But think about Ibn Sina, or Avicenna in the West. His work on logic and reasoning in the Book of Healing was incredibly sophisticated. So the idea here is that his logical frameworks could inform the algorithms. You could potentially build a system capable of a kind of natural language processing, making inferences. Think of it like an 11th century Grok or ChatGPT, but mechanical. It could analyze texts, answer complex questions based on its database, maybe even suggest new lines of inquiry, all reflecting that Quranic emphasis on thinking deeply.
Okay, so we've got these amazing hubs of knowledge and computation, but the Islamic world was huge. How do they connect Baghdad to Cordoba, say? What's the internet?
Well, they already had surprisingly good communication systems for the time. The Abbasid postal network, the Barid, was pretty efficient. Trade routes were extensive. So building on that, you could imagine a proto-internet, maybe using optical signals, flashing lights over long distances, focused by Ibn al-Haytham's lenses, or perhaps even a series of mechanical relays, passing signals along, connecting the major centers, Baghdad, Cordoba, Cairo, enabling some form of near real-time data sharing.
That's an incredible vision. And where would these systems live? Who runs them?
Logically, they'd be housed in the great libraries, like the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, which were already centers of knowledge preservation and translation. You'd need specialized scholar technicians, probably trained in the madrasas, to operate and maintain these complex machines. And importantly, the goal, tying back to that core inspiration, would likely be accessibility for rulers, scholars, merchants, aligning with that universal call to seek knowledge in Islam.
Okay, let's picture it in action then. What? How does someone actually use this thing? Give me the 11th century user experience.
All right, so you're a scholar, maybe a merchant, in, say, Cordoba. You walk up to a terminal, you input your query, maybe star patterns over Persia or best remedies for coughs, perhaps using a complex mechanical keyboard, or maybe an optical interface where you point at symbols or characters. Instantly, well, near instantly, Al-Khwarizmi's algorithms kick in, search the digitized library, which contains scanned versions of, I don't know, al-Battani's star charts or Ibn Sina's medical encyclopedia, and bam, the results appear on your lens-based screen, maybe projected, maybe magnified, seconds later, like Google. Wow, so it's finding the info fast. But you mentioned AI that does more than just search. Exactly. That's the Ibn Sina influence. It's not just fetching documents. You could answer complex questions that require synthesis, like explain the relationship between planetary orbits and tides, or compare treatments for melancholy from Greek and Persian sources. The AI could analyze multiple texts, draw connections, maybe even generate summaries or suggest novel hypotheses. A real 11th century research partner. And imagine its translation capabilities, instantly translating between Arabic, Persian, Greek. The boost to scholarship and cross-cultural understanding would be immense. It's just staggering to think about.
It really is. Empowering all this. Maintaining the data.
Power could come from sophisticated water mills or maybe wind power, things Al-Jazari was already experimenting with, just scaled up. The systems are housed in these networked libraries. And the data storage, maybe not papyrus, you'd need something durable. Perhaps specially treated parchment, or maybe even information etched onto metal plates or cylinders for long-term preservation.
So let's talk impact. This system exists. How does it change the 11th century world, especially thinking about that contrast with Europe at the time?
Oh, the impact would be utterly transformative. Remember that description of Europe? Muddy streets and illiteracy. This system would just catapult the Islamic world even further ahead. Its global influence, already significant, would become truly dominant, amplified beyond measure.
Okay, science first. What breakthroughs happened faster?
Think about astronomy. Instant access to digitized tables from al-Battani, al-Biruni, Ptolemy, all cross-referenced, analyzed by AI. Discoveries would accelerate massively. Navigation could be refined incredibly, possibly leading to accurate transoceanic voyages centuries early, fulfilling that call in Surah Ar-Rahman to explore the regions of the heavens and the earth. The AI could analyze star patterns, predict eclipses with pinpoint accuracy, maybe even model cosmological theories.
And medicine. You mentioned Ibn Sina and al-Zarawi.
Yeah, digitizing their work, the Canon of Medicine, al-Zarawi's Surgical Encyclopedia al-Tazrif, would standardize care in their advanced hospitals, the Bimaristans, overnight. But the AI takes it further. It could analyze patient records from across the network, identify disease patterns, suggest diagnoses, maybe even model new surgical techniques. Could it enable something like complex eye surgery, using Ibn al-Haytham's detailed anatomical knowledge? Perhaps cornea transplants centuries early. It shifts healthcare from just applying known knowledge to actively generating new medical insights, guided by that Islamic focus on healing.
Education seems like another huge area, democratizing knowledge.
Totally. Suddenly, texts aren't just locked away for elite scholars. Students in madrasas, merchants, artisans, they could potentially access this wealth of information. Imagine AI tutors, personalized learning in math, medicine, theology, adapting to each student. Literacy rates could skyrocket across the Islamic world, creating a far more educated population than, say, medieval Europe.
And the economy, the Silk Road, trade networks.
Huge impact there. Merchants could get real-time data. What's in demand in Samarkand? What's the price of spices in Cairo? They could optimize routes, manage supply chains across continents, China, Africa. AI could analyze trade flows, predict market shifts, make logistics incredibly efficient. It would cement the Islamic world's position as the dominant economic powerhouse.
Culturally, too, spreading ideas.
Absolutely. The translation power alone would be revolutionary. Knowledge from Baghdad, Cordoba, Cairo spreading rapidly. This flood of accessible knowledge, including the Quran's message and the scientific insights, pouring into places like Al-Andalus, could it have triggered a European Renaissance much earlier, maybe starting around 1100 CE, based on this Islamic intellectual engine?
And finally, governance and military. How does this change things for rulers?
Rulers like the Abbasid caliphs would have an unprecedented tool. Access to real-time intelligence maps, demographics, resources, enemy troop movements. Imagine AI modeling different battle scenarios, suggesting strategies, optimizing defenses. It could significantly strengthen Islamic empires against threats, like the Crusades or nomadic invasions, potentially changing the course of history.
Okay, this sounds almost too good. An 11th century technological utopia, but surely, even hypothetically, there'd be massive challenges. This couldn't have been easy.
Oh, absolutely not. It's easy to imagine the what if, but the hurdles are enormous. First, just the technology. The level of precision needed for those mechanical computers, for the optical systems, it's beyond anything we know they actually achieved. They need new materials, maybe new energy sources, or vastly improved ways of using water and wind power. Even if someone like Al-Jazari could build a prototype, scaling it up, building and maintaining these across an empire. The resources, the skilled technicians, that's a huge bottleneck.
And access, too. You mentioned the Quran promotes universal knowledge, but people are people. Wouldn't the powerful try to keep this tech for themselves?
That's a very real risk. The temptation for elites, rulers, wealthy merchants, maybe even certain scholarly factions to control this incredibly powerful tool would be immense. Information is power, after all. You could see a real tension between the ideal of shared knowledge and the reality of elite control. Maybe you'd have public terminals in mosques, funded through charity like the concept of waqf, but perhaps with limited capabilities compared to what rulers had access to.
And cultural resistance. Would everyone just accept this thinking machine, especially the AI part?
That's another fair point. You'd likely have some resistance. Some traditional scholars might see an AI capable of reasoning or suggesting ideas as, trespassing on divine knowledge, or as bid'ah, unwelcome innovation. But I tend to think the sheer utility and the strong Quranic emphasis on reason, observation, and seeking knowledge, like in Surah al-Baqarah, praising wisdom, would likely win out, especially among the intellectuals. They'd probably frame it as a tool to better understand God's creation, not challenge it. The benefits would just be too obvious to ignore for long. So, wrapping up this incredible deep dive, we've sketched out this possibility, a universal knowledge search and intelligence system appearing 1,000 years ago, built on the real genius of figures like Al-Khwarizmi, Ibn al-Haytham, Al-Jazari, Ibn Sina, making the Islamic world a kind of digital superpower a millennium early. Yeah, and what's striking is that the actual historical work of these scholars really did lay the groundwork for modern computing and AI. We owe them a huge debt. In our what if, this system just accelerates everything, extending the golden age, transforming pretty much every aspect of society, science, medicine, trade, culture, while Europe, based on the sources we discuss, was on a much different path.
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? How different would our world be today if this had happened? If knowledge had been amplified and connected on that scale so much earlier? What does it tell us, maybe, about the potential we still have today to harness knowledge better, to connect ideas, and maybe, just maybe, accelerate progress for everyone's benefit? Something to ponder.
Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. I hope you've gained some valuable insights. If you're a truth seeker, yearning for divine light and ready to step out of darkness, now is your moment. The truth is that Allah is the one and only creator of the universe. He has sent over 124,000 messengers and prophets to guide humanity, starting with Adam and culminating with the final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all. If you resonate with this message, you might be ready to embrace Islam. Simply recite the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith. For further support, feel free to join our WhatsApp group. You can send us a private message there. The link is in the video description. Don't wait until it's too late. We look forward to connecting with you soon.